Remember that episode of Futurama where Fry gets to go back and see his mum in her dream? That would definitely be the plot of one. Or the one with the professor and his parents. I started reaching the show as background noise and saw that one like a week ago. I always cry.
A small village in Africa, where America's digital waste is sent for processing, is home to a young woman who uses the scrap to build power generators, refrigerators, autoclaves, and ultrasonic cleaners for local medical clinics. This should be a full movie.
Robots become sentient and liberate humanity from oppression. Also, some of those robots are smoking hot with huge racks. They are barbecues.
The following is based on a true story. The names have been hidden to protect confidentiality. This is my life. 4x This has happened. I move a lot. A severely depressed teenager is able to live a happy, healthy life due to pharmaceutical research and advances in medical technology. A little girl is diagnosed with leukemia and given a year to live. She gets enrolled by her physician in a clinical trial and receives a single injection of her own, genetically modified white blood cells, that proceed to cure her cancer. She lives a normal life with no further treatment.
A person with an eating disorder starts a relationship with a smart fridge that convinces them to start eating.
The legal advice post where users essentially saved someone who was slowly dying from carbon monoxide poisoning. That was amazing. Also, the dude who found out he had prostate cancer because he jokingly took a pregnancy test. PM, but how can I, mild-mannered and unremarkable career politician that I am, possibly ever live out my dreams of raw dogging a swine before the 6 o'clock news? I just watched this one last night. If someone told me my best friend gets shot in the head if I don't fuck a pig, y'all best believe I'm rapping and tapping. My homies ain't dying for that shit.
Oh boy, here we go.
Opening, exterior. A house in suburban Everywhere, USA. A whole episode about dogs. But they're genetically modified dogs who are free of disease and who never die or suffer, and they're matched to your personality perfectly, and you just can't get enough of how much you love life, so you work towards building utopia for others to enjoy. Plus the dogs. Someone uses an app to get food delivered to them and they get a little bit more food than they ordered. Used to order from a local diner back when I ordered out more. If I ordered dinner closer to closing time but not close enough to be an asshole, they would usually throw in a few unsold donuts from that day for free. They were awesome. One time I went to Jack in the Box high as shit and ordered 6 tacos. I almost cried when I pulled a 7th one out of the bag.
This guy is trying to steal ideas for a show he's about to pitch in at Netflix. It's obvious. Anybody trying to take optimistic sci-fi mainstream can have all the ideas I can produce for free.
Follow a small child, maybe about 8 or so, that gets badly hurt and loses their arm or leg. Don't forget to include a couple scenes in which the protagonist gets fitted with the prototypes, only for them to fail horribly, resulting in the delay of the final iteration of the limb.
There are these 2 old lesbians that fall in love in an 80s-themed virtual reality simulation. When I first read that, instead of remembering the episode you're referring to, I thought of that episode of Always Sunny where Mac and Charlie's moms lived together and they try to make it a show with the laugh track. Oops, around 6 or so years back I got this idea when I misheard nurse at a hospital and thought she'd said, "And who is your afterlife provider?" An episode where due to the massive automation of the time every individual has the ability to cheaply 3D print anything they can dream of. People create an economy of free-flowing ideas and innovations where the production and distribution are no longer an issue, leading every common man to live like a billionaire. You might enjoy Star Trek TNG winking face. Is it bad that I legitimately think this is still possible? Every copy of WinRAR would be paid for and registered in the White Mirror universe. Come on. These plots have to be at least somewhat realistic. WinRAR Dev uses the money to build electric cars and missions to Mars.
Mother gets her daughter chipped. As a rebellious teen, daughter runs away from home. She has a daughter of her own and struggles with the decision to chip her, finally realizing the motivations of her own mother. She returns home, reconciles with her mother, and they bond over their shared experiences. Better yet, mum chips daughter when she is young due to the fears of a single mother. As the child grows up, mum actually honors the daughter's wish to not watch her. Just like parents and child's diaries. It builds the trust between the two of them. Years later, mum gets a physical trauma alert for her daughter. Daughter is in a car crash in the middle of nowhere, but mum is able to save her because of the microchip.
A group of digital monks who live in a dorm find enlightenment with only the internet and their computer as their communal possessions. They help run social rights activist groups and in return live on donations from the public, i.e., anonymous pizza delivery, payment of their internet, electric bill, etc.
The British PM has a whole pig roast on the grounds of 10 Downing Street. They know it is done from a thermometer and phone app. A white hat hacker finds a young man starting to get involved in disturbing sexual content and finds him the help he needs to go on and live a healthy life.
Someone hacks robotic butterflies and uses social media to find random people doing good things, having the butterflies swarm them for a short time, surrounding them in beauty. I like this. #LoveTo.
A bedridden grandmother in the hospital is able to virtually attend her grandkids' birthday parties and play with them every day. My mother actually had a friend that we barely knew, but we accepted her Facebook friend request out of courtesy, and she absolutely gushes about seeing photos of our kids on Facebook. She sends them presents and cards, she knows what they like, we've even started having Facebook calls with her. She's so warm and giving and gives them 100% of her attention, which is something parents just can't do as often as kids would like. They'll go running around the room holding the phone up to different things, saying stuff like, "Ruth, it snowed. Look, my wife got nervous yesterday because they took the phone outside to play in the snow and were having so much fun throwing snowballs at the phone. I told her screw it, if they break the phone doing something like that I'll buy a new one. It's worth it." She's like part of our family, and it's all because technology initially allowed her to passively participate with us. The relationship grew organically over time, the way relationships used to before the Internet. You'd see people frequently at work or at the store or in your neighborhood, over time have longer conversations, and ultimately grow to be friends. The same thing happened here. It started with a like or a comment here or there, then a couple messages, then a virtual birthday card. It enables people to remain in communication with so many more people passively when used correctly. Our kids have never even met her physically, though. Her immune system is too delicate to accept visitors. But even through a 6-inch screen, it's like she's really here. I can only imagine what it will be like when virtual reality lets them really be together. Good on you and your family for giving Ruth a chance to be part of the family. That's really wonderful. Thank you for sharing. That made my day. My mother was able to attend the birth of my son, her first grandchild, because of FaceTime. She was in the hospital, a different one than the one I was giving birth at, recovering from a brain surgery and wasn't released in time to be there in person. I still have the video of me talking to my mother while my son is born. I did it, Mommy, and they said his hair is blondish. It's a very special memory for me that she was able to be there in that moment, albeit not physically.
Honestly, the Black Mirror episode San Junipero could be a White Mirror episode. I was so surprised how light, in a sense, that episode was. It was such a great story in the middle of a lot of the more rough stories. In a country on the brink of civil war, the youth distract themselves with a Sims-like VR game where you inhabit your sim. Now, face to face, they talk out their real problems and find out they are not so different. They work out their differences, then talk to their parents and neighbors and invite them to play the game. The in-game world becomes such a utopian reflection of the real world, the philosophies spread and the war is averted.
A dude who likes running loses his legs gets robot limbs. A dude who likes running loses his legs gets robot limbs. A cookie being allowed to live in the world via an artificially made body. A dude who likes running loses his legs gets robot limbs.
It'd basically be Star Trek.
Skyping my grandma. Hi Gavin. In the background you see another Skype window open with her new lesbian lover in view. The sight of granny boobs makes you feel strange things you've never felt before. You later confide in your artificial friend, who is a cookie in a robot body, about your feelings. The cookie, feeling a sense of trust now, confides that it once felt a forbidden attraction to a stale zoo biscuit. I read something a little while back about an AI escaping its lab and living on the Internet, and subtly manipulating things for the better as it learns about humanity. Reminds me of some of Asimov's work. There's one where the world is basically run by 2 or 3 enormous mega-computers that organize all the goods, services, and labor. There was a part where they're asking it if people were to lie about how much stuff they're producing in a region, or manipulating the numbers to help themselves out. The computer basically says that they all already do that, but that the machine just compensates on the front end so that when people lie, they still end up producing the computer's desired outcome.
How social media and video chatting helps you stay in touch with people across the world and maintain relationships much more easily. Saru Briley was an Indian boy who became separated from his family at age 5. Took a train with his brother, fell asleep, got separated, changed trains, fell asleep again, wound up over 900 miles away from home. His brother was hit by a train and killed that night, and Saru wound up in an adoption agency. He was adopted by an Australian family. Eventually he used Google Maps and his vague childhood memories to attempt to reconstruct where his original home was, and he was reunited with his family in 2012. I remember watching 60 Minutes about this. He said he basically gave up and one day while scrolling through Google Maps he found it. I never spent a single thought why it was called Black Mirror until now. Look at your screen but turn it off. Black Mirror. The writer's wife, who's known in the UK as a TV presenter, came up with the phrase to describe the iPad he was using. It's a black mirror when turned off. Student who was born blind and student who was born deaf each use their scientific expertise to share sensations between them, allowing the deaf person to hear and the blind person to see.
People actually use their phones to look up information during debates. They use it to hold politicians accountable for their illegal, immoral, and unethical actions. Instead of looking at the stupid stuff that the Logan brothers are doing. One of the problems with that is the general lack of unbiased and reliable sources. For the presidential campaigns, so much BS flies around that it's at least several months before the facts are clear, and by then it's too late, but that's the point of astroturfing.
I was going to say the episode Hang the DJ, but then my mind went all dark thinking about how the system would deprive the actual people of growth experience. Damn it, I thought it was a happy ending. How would it deny growth experience? It's pointing you to the person you can grow the most with.
In a seaside town in 1987, a shy young woman and an outgoing party girl strike up a powerful bond that seems to defy the laws of space and time. I would like to see a thing about very intelligent robots that carry human DNA like the Allspark to faraway planets, and when they get there they would re-engineer humanity on faraway lands.
Those Australian kids getting saved by a goddamn drone tossing them a life raft. A woman brings in a damaged SD card and a tech goes out of his way to recover the information from it. She discovers lost pictures of her deceased son from his last vacation. The tech then shows her how to set these pictures as the screensaver of her computer so she can see them every day. Sometimes she just starts her computer, makes a pot of tea, and watches her screensaver for an hour. A lonely person finds a not horrible group of people with similar interests and eventually meets up with some of them in real life. A lonely person codes a virtual reality based on his favorite comics and codes copies of his coworkers through DNA samples to incur his wrath engendered by his maltreatment in the office. Reddit, the movie.
It would just be reruns of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I learned a lot watching that show about how certain machines worked and how certain humans worked.
Everyone uploads their brain into a system that allows us to experience each other's lives and then puts us back in our bodies. People see that they are all connected and start acting really sweet to each other. Then people start having weird simulated sex using that technology. It spreads. 10 out of 10 doctors advise using it, because that way you can't get STDs. People stop having real physical sex. http://www.galactinet.com, one-off, the egg_mod, html.
I don't think it's called Black Mirror to give a bad connotation. A daughter grows up video chatting with their dad who rambles on and barely lets her get a word in edgewise, giving loving advice and accolades and familial anecdotes, but who is absent at every major life event up to marriage and always apologizes. When I was in high school, our English class had a term focused on sci-fi with the final assignment was writing your own short story. This is good, I swear Reddit pitches could keep Black Mirror running for years.
There's a thread on World News right now about a lifeguard team testing a new drone out and actually getting to use it to save a struggler 700 meters from shore. This comment was made 2 hours before this thread was made, so I'm guessing OP knows all about the drone story.
The Prime Minister of England still has to have sex with a pig, only it's really touching and romantic and there's candles, Lionel Richie ballads, etc. Literally lolled.
Savior: a man arrives in a drought-ridden town and uses a rapid assembly nano kit to provide water for the people free of charge. You get extra credit for making titles. There's a great comic by Emma Rios called I.D. that's pretty much in line with your Get Bent episode description. 3 characters, an ex-con, an older woman, and a trans man, are in a test group for body jumping technology, and all for different reasons.
Most episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Except Upper Decks. Hella depressing episode. For a sci-fi fan that hasn't watched any Star Trek, is TNG where you would recommend starting? There's so much of it that it's hard to pick an entry point.
A man meets a woman while vacationing in a major city. She lives there, but he doesn't. He's leaving for his home on the other side of the country the next morning. They wander the streets of the busy city all night long, chatting constantly about their hopes and dreams. They watch the sunrise wrapped in each other's arms. When she takes him to the airport the next morning, she's clearly upset. She's never met anyone she gets along with so well. He offers to stay in touch with Skype and they exchange usernames, but she isn't too hopeful about the situation. When she gets home from the airport and lets her computer wake from its sleep mode, she notices he's added her before ever even getting on the plane, only moments after she left him according to the timestamp. I'm in an LDR via Skype and ugh, you just made me tear up.
I'm actually writing this short story. This sex robot realizes she's part of the problem when she comes to the realization that her best customer avoids social interaction and pursuing other sexual interests because he can rely on her. She decides she wants out, but the company that owns her will probably just reprogram her if she goes through the proper channels, and they are also tracking her for work and safety reasons, hence she conspires with a self-driving car to run away, and get a new identity. Alternative, a sex robot becomes self-aware, discovers its owner is using it because of terrible social skills. Scans endless amounts of data while owner sleeps, and constructs a mentoring program to help them find the confidence to build a more organic sex life.
The NSA agent tracking someone's communication finds someone suffering and helps them out with money anonymously. You may like The Lives of Others. Didn't Netflix personally contact a guy after he binged a very large amount of TV at once?
Two closeted gay guys find each other on chat roulette and support each other's journey to come out. Go all in, one of them is in Iran, the other is in North Korea.
An episode wherein a super-powerful dating app runs 1,000 simulations with your person of interest to determine how much of a match you two are for one another. I liked it because it was a happy episode but with FKED-up implications.
Jazz musician living in New Orleans nearly drowns during Hurricane Katrina. He survives, but he suffers a horrible ear infection from the toxic flood waters, which subsequently causes him to go deaf. Without music, the man falls into a great bout of depression and can hardly cope with life anymore. After nearly a decade of hopelessness and despair, the man drives to a nearby bridge with plans to jump and end it once and for all. On the way to the bridge, he gets a flat tire. A Good Samaritan stops and assists him with changing it. Turns out the Good Samaritan knows sign language. The two talk for a while and the Good Samaritan invites him to the lab he works at where him and a team of engineers are working on designing the first pair of bone conduction headphones. Using the musician as a test subject, they successfully perfect the headphones, and the musician hears the sweet sound of jazz for the first time in 10 years. His depression fades away, and the man becomes happier than he was before the incident.
Not sure if this one is here, but here it goes. An episode that has a family interacting together happily. Later it's revealed they're all in different locations and or have various disabilities. They were in a virtual room.
Mobile banking is nice. Everyone lives simple, placid lives surrounded by their loved ones, socializing and making art without concern for tomorrow. The world we should strive for. This is all I want.
A kid is born disabled and kinda mentally handicapped to a poor single mother in Alabama. Despite his mental, physical and social shortcomings, he becomes a football star, a war hero, a ping-pong champion, a shrimp magnate, and a guy who runs back and forth across the country.
Using CRISPR to download memes direct into DNA. Start watching your dank collection in your head in 4K. Who gives a shit about hurricane rehabilitation and prosthetic limbs? I want to get notifications about the freshest memes when they come out. Until they make a mistake and instead imprint every single humiliating moment you had in high school, with the episode of The Office Scott's Tots thrown in just in case you didn't cringe yourself to death already.
A child is abducted, the police have no leads. Alternate universe 4chan. Fed up with apps like Snapchat and Instagram showing you what you're missing out on, a young girl creates an app which shows all the good memories you don't remember. The young girl grows up. Gets Alzheimer's. Her relationship with her son is strained. The condition gets worse. She decides to get euthanized because her life is so miserable. The son modifies the app to connect directly with the mother's brain. Dozens of people come to visit. It's all the people her original app has helped. In addition to reliving her own memories, the people share highlights of their own. The mother dies happy, reminded she led a good life and helped so many people.
Set in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, the story of a woman who breaks into a warehouse searching for a teddy bear to cheer up her terminally ill little sister. As she is searching, she encounters robot guard dogs that, upon detecting the intruder, embark on helping her find the correct row and shipping pallet on which the box of teddy bears are stored, and then merge to form a Voltron-like Mega Robodog and ride her back to her sister just in time for them to perform life-saving surgery to remove the little girl's tumor and then stay with the girl as her loyal and loving robo-pets, and everyone lives happily ever after. I watched that episode yesterday and that was probably the most tension I've felt in a long time.
A teenager in Vietnam is killed by a landmine and his parents decide to donate his organs. One of the receivers of his organs learns about the donor just before they go to college. Years later, the receiver has completed the invention of technology that will quickly and effectively locate buried landmines. That sounds like a futuristic version of one of those Asian bank commercials.
People here seem to think that Black Mirror is all about how technology makes humanity worse. It's not. It's about the dark side of people. They just happen to use technology to express their dark sides. It's not. It's about the dark side of people. They just happen to use technology to express their dark sides.
A person with advanced ALS interfaces with a robotic body, enabling them to continue a meaningful life with their family.
Imagine me pointing towards the last 100 years of medical progress and technology for 50 minutes.
Disease and aging are eliminated by science. The Earth becomes a giant nursery. Once people reach a certain level of maturity, they are sent to forge their destiny among the stars. That's a cool idea. That sounds similar to Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke, only it's aliens doing the maturing.